Hey everyone, this is Paul Asadorian here for the demo with NetSparker. Joining us today from NetSparker is Mark Schembri. He's the Technical Solutions Engineer. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me for this demonstration.
Yes, I'm excited. I actually am a NetSparker user. Talk about an endorsement, right? We actually use NetSparker to scan our own web properties. I've just always loved the NetSparker product. I've done a lot of testing with a lot of different scanners, and really just love all the features in the NetSparker product. And it definitely, I've got a lot less websites than a lot of enterprises, but when you are scanning a whole ton of websites, I find it handles that challenge really, really well. It also handles things like authentication, accuracy, eliminating false positives, all those challenges that you would have with your scanner technology. Also being able to enumerate vulnerabilities in your web properties and web applications and send them to the right people addresses that challenge. So it's really an awesome solution, and those are some of the reasons why we use it. So Mark, I'll turn it over to you to kind of set up the demo and take us through some of the product features today.
Sure. So let me start by sharing the screen. So screen sharing. Yep. Okay. So as you rightly said through your introduction, with NetSparker, this project started more than 12 years ago by our CEO. And originally it was like a tool by a pen tester for pen testers. But throughout these years, the tool evolved. And with NetSparker Enterprise, basically our team took heed of the actual pains that enterprise customers encounter on their daily chores and daily challenges. And this, I like to describe NetSparker Enterprise more as a platform rather than a tool, because it covers a whole spectrum of what you can do and what are the real needs to have our web assets protected. And in fact, the first part that NetSparker Enterprise protects the web assets is through the discovery process. So sometimes, and most often, unfortunately, when we ask the question, how many web assets belong to the organization? Usually there is a long silence, because it is very difficult for organization to have like a proper snapshot of the actual websites that are online at that point in time. So with the discovery feature, basically,
a comment from the trenches, to your comment just now. But how many websites do I have? I did a very basic discovery of domain names and subdomains. So we're at CRA, right? We're a 70-person company, and I found with just a light scan 70 different domains and host names that could potentially have web properties on them. So you extrapolate that out to the enterprise, right? That's why you get that long pause of, I don't know, I've never really checked, right?
Yeah. And this will bring like a new dimension from where to actually the security starts on our websites, because we cannot secure something unless we are aware that they're available and they're available to be accessed. So the way it works is that as a user, as I start entering the websites into my configuration, the discovery process will start looking into the certification information about that particular URL, and through DNS lookups and IP address resolutions, it will come out with a list so that the user will be able to either create a website profile so that it can be scanned, or ignore it if such website does not belong to the organization. So that is the very first step where this NetSparker Enterprise starts with. The second step is the detection part, which is like the pivotal part of the this web vulnerability scanning solution. And one of the main issues that users have here is about confidence, because one would expect that a tool which is claiming to detect vulnerabilities will, at the end of the scan, show those vulnerabilities. But the main question is, how much confident is this tool? And this is, again, where NetSparker, throughout these years, did a really great job, because through the scan results, one is able to know exactly the confidence level at which the vulnerability is detected. So if we look at the technical report, which is available for every scan result, one is able to see this confirmed stamp. The confirmed stamp, which is basically communicating to the user, you know what, we performed the detection here. In this case, it's a Boolean-based SQL injection. You don't really need to pass this result to your team to confirm it, because you can just push it to the developers to have it fixed. And this is really important. And apart from it, part of the confidence, we are not just showing those vulnerabilities which are confirmed, but we are also being transparent, even those which we think that might be, or at least let's rephrase it, we are clearly showing those vulnerabilities which we are not 100% sure. So, for example, in this case, we are clearly showing this is possible, and also the certainty level at the 20%. Because it's very important that the, instead of having a situation where the user needs to ask himself or herself, like, okay, but should I take additional actions on this vulnerability? Should I not? This report is straight on. Whatever is possible, you might need to do some further verification, and for some other, you don't need to.
And Mark,
you
know what?
Yeah.
I just want to back up your points there, because I've used this, and I've looked at a lot of different websites and done a lot of pen testing. One thing is, I find it's almost closer in my mind, less of a scanner and more of an adversary simulation, because the results are so accurate that when there is something that's exploitable, it's going to tell you. So I feel like it's more simulating an adversary than it is the way you think of a traditional web app scanner. So much so, I think if you get junior level kind of bug bounty reporting, I find NetSparker's tool more accurate than the reports coming from a junior level kind of bug bounty, an actual person, right? That doesn't have enough years of experience in enumerating and verifying vulnerabilities. I actually find NetSparker to be more accurate.
Yeah, definitely. It's a product which has been maturing for a number of years, and also through the technologies. So even if we mention the proof-based scanning, as we can see here, through the proof of exploit, basically this is technology which will help the user and giving extra proof around the concept that if the automated scanner was able to exploit this particular Boolean-based SQL injection, and by exploiting it, the tool was able to get the database version, database user, and database name of the actual database used by the website. So there's no chance this is false positive. So here we are pushing really hard about the confidence level. And also one other thing, as you were mentioning with our other vulnerability assessments, is that as a Dust application, NetSparker is not just covering the code of the website, but it is covering a whole operation, a whole interaction of how that code is interacting with third-party libraries, how it is interacting with the underlying technologies, server configuration. So you have a complete solution which is giving you a true picture of the whole website security.
Yeah,
another important part of the
I love that feature, because oftentimes I will do is, you're right, if I have a web server, my application's running, through it or on top of it, however you want to picture it. If NetSparker will find vulnerabilities in my web server, both software and configuration, I'll take those results back. I'll go to my central Docker build, that builds Nginx for all my applications, and I'll make the fixes there, and then I'll push all of that out, and I'll fix a whole ton of, even if they're not super, super critical, I still want to make sure I fix those. And NetSparker being able to tell me that, and then me fixing it in my one container that I want everyone to use when they deploy the web server, that fixes, every web property that we have, rather than going through, like one by one. And those are important too, and often easier to fix than sometimes in the application code where you get into logic and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And the way that the results are presented, it really helps the user. So we're showing the actual impact, the actions to take, including the remediation process. So it's all clear there. And also there are references where one can, start this information building process if you want to go deeper into the actual vulnerability. Perhaps you want to get more information about how that vulnerability is affecting that particular website technology. So all the information is part of this rich report. And also, you also mentioned issues related to hardware and servers. And this is also another thing that NetSparker pushes forward through the enterprise solution, is that it offers a lot of different ways on how to make visible all the information gathered during the scan. So in this dashboard, for example, what we did is that we wanted to focus on the components that are being used by the website. Because it is very easy to just focus on the code which is being created by developers, that sometimes we just forget that there is a database that, if not updated, that can provide some vulnerabilities in itself. So over here, for example, you can see databases, third-party components and libraries such as the jQuery, the actual technology on which the website is running. Here you have a complete view of the issues, as well a list of all the issues detected by NetSparker Enterprise related to that particular component not being up to date. So full visibility and information is important from our end. And also in terms of visibility, through NetSparker Enterprise, you will be able to get different type of information, so severity trends, and you can focus on particular websites. You can create website groups, and you can focus on a particular website. So for example, you can group the websites which are on staging environment, or perhaps on development environment or production environment. So all of this information can be really targeted on one particular platform, so that the right analysis can be done. Same type of information can be done for every single website that you are scanning with NetSparker Enterprise. And another good feature is the trend matrix report. The trend matrix report, which basically will show a list of vulnerabilities which at some point were detected on that particular website. And for every scan, you will have the status for that particular website. So this can be also helpful for developers to understand when that vulnerability first made its appearance, sort of. So a lot of rich information can be gathered through those reports as well. The next important step is the address. So once the action is done and the user is confident about the next action, addressing those vulnerabilities and issues is a crucial part for the whole process. And the very first important thing about NetSparker is that we are not just happy to show a list of vulnerabilities, but for every vulnerability, you will be able to have an owner. So if you go for the detail, basically you can assign this vulnerability to one particular user. What this means is that after a scan, I don't have just a vulnerability detection there, but I have a user assigned to it. And when the user accesses NetSparker Enterprise configuration, as you can see through these issues, in the to-do list, they will have the number of issues which need attention and action from them. So this will minimize situations where the users will forget that there is a particular vulnerability which needs to take action. And this is very important in terms of addressing those vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it's also important, Mark, because oftentimes different groups are responsible for different components inside of your websites, and it's nice to delegate that. Like, oh, that's a developer thing, that's a sysops thing. This goes to our security team because maybe it's SSL related, and we need to do something with the certificate. So there's all these different users and groups of users that may kind of spread out that workload of remediating the vulnerabilities.
Definitely, and the way that NetSparker helps into this is that every website will have its own main contact. So if we look at the basically when we add a new website, the user will be able to set the main technical contact. So that would be the main contact responsible for that website. And also through the team membership, NetSparker will make it really easy for the person who is responsible for the tool to decide on the type of access that the team members will have. So as you can see, there are like account permissions, scan permissions, and you can also set the actual visibility of that user on the actual websites. So you might want a particular team of developers to have visibility over their projects only, so that they don't get distracted with other information and communication going on. So this is really, really important for us to have that sense of ownership and have a situation where everyone knows what needs to be done. Another important thing about addressing the issues is the ability to retest. So once you have this technical report and you have all the information, developer goes and basically performs the actual fix. What will happen is that every vulnerability will have its own status. So for example, I know that this one is present, it's still open, action is needed. And once that vulnerability is fixed, the user is able to set it as fixed, and this will start a scan which will validate that fix automatically. So through this process, you can be rest assured that we are checking that vulnerability is not detected anymore thanks to the fix performed by the developer. So we have a closed loop, and the product will help sort of to close that loop on that particular vulnerability detected over there.
And Mark, this is one of my favorite features in the product, because if you were an individual scanning just one website, you might look at the results, go fix a whole bunch of things, maybe try and fix everything, and then rescan everything. When you get more than one website and extrapolate this out maybe to an enterprise of any size, you're going to piecemeal it. And your developers, if they're using any kind of agile or DevOps process, probably going to fix one or two things. They're going to take the most critical one there, my SQL injection. They're going to go do that fix. They're going to push out a release. They can come in here. Only that vulnerability is retested. Then my other group goes off and they upgrade the database backend. And then I just want to go retest all of the database vulnerabilities, and I can go retest just those. That's a huge help to streamline the process of discovering and remediating and make sure that the fix actually did work without having to rescan the entire site.
Yes, definitely. And to help with this, NetSparker spent a lot of time into working on integration profiles. So basically, this is a list of all the integrations that can be supported out of the box. So by a single click, basically I can set the URL where I can find my issue tracker, username, password, token, and I have the integration ready to be used. As you can see, we support issue tracking systems to be integrated, project management tools, CI tools, communication platforms as well, so you can get messages directly that a critical vulnerability was detected on that particular website, as well as we are also supporting PAM accounts as well as part of our integration. NetSparker API is also there available. So a lot of organizations nowadays work on a system where, for example, the security tools would push the vulnerabilities to their internal vulnerability management tool. Thanks to NetSparker Enterprise, this can be handled even with tools which are not listed here. So you can have that fully automated process from start to finish. And also related to this, one of the very important things with the ability of NetSparker to be fully streamlined within your SDSA process is that you can reach a point where the developer will be the person who will start the scan, because this, for example, through the actual CI tools. So, for example, let's say I'm working on Azure pipelines and I work on a particular fix, and I, as a developer, I can start a scan as part of my build process. Once that scan is completed, I can set the product to actually create tickets automatically based on the filtering system, where I can say, okay, I want tickets to be created only for high and critical vulnerabilities, as well as tickets for those vulnerabilities which are confirmed. So over here, I'm using that proof-based scanning feature, which is very powerful in the product. The developer will receive tickets into his project. In the morning, they log in, they fix it. And thanks to the two-way communication system, which is also available through the product, by closing the ticket on his side, the developer they can start the scan automatically into the product to handle and basically retest that particular vulnerability. So we have like a full cycle where the person responsible for the tool has little or nothing to do apart from monitoring the whole process, and the developer is in full control of all the actions needed with NetSparker Enterprise. And this is a very important thing nowadays. We look at agile processes and the ability of having different team members, departments to interact with each other through those tools, and NetSparker Enterprise will help through this whole process.
Yeah, it fits very. I mean, I don't see how you would work any other way, to be honest with you, Mark. And it is
nowadays,
right, and it's a huge part of your agile process,
yeah,
which is very heavily focused on writing tests. What's nice is NetSparker's already writing those tests, integrating into my process. It's less code that I have to write to maybe go, write a unit test to look for that. If it's integrated with NetSparker, it's going to test for that organically as well.
Yes, definitely, and the fact that we are also focusing on the importance of Dust tools to be active throughout the project, because I still think that there is a bit of maybe misinformation about this, but the way I see it, Dust tools are a must. And through this process, the ability of having a lot of users interacting with the tool, the integration part, NetSparker multiple times was presented as that crucial tool needed by various organizations, thanks to its also ability to interact directly with the SDSA processes. Because even as a Dust solution, you don't need to go into endless configuration. You can just, as we can see, starting a scan, you can basically just choose your website over here, maybe set up the authentication part so that you can perform an authenticated scan. And also, this is done really easy thanks to the custom scripting. So basically, you can record all of the steps needed for the scanner to perform, and those steps can be repeated. As you can see, it's literally a matter of seconds. I can test that script. I can make sure that it's working. Full visibility, I'm in. I can click on OK, and there's the script. So as you can see, it's really easy to perform a scan. It's like
Yeah, it's really amazing because I vividly remember spending an hour or more trying to get authentication, configured in other tools years ago, and the fact that it's this easy now is it's awesome.
Yes, and it handles multiple situations. Even if, for example, your website is using an SSO, this can be recorded very easily with this custom script. Another important aspect that we cover, I was reading recently that around 80% of the internet traffic, it's all bound to APIs and web services. And
Hmm.
for this reason, NetSparker also includes, gives the ability to import directly the endpoints and the definitions of those endpoints directly to the configuration, like for example through a Swagger file, and basically thanks to it you can scan APIs even if there is no user interface related to it. So this makes the tool really really powerful. Again, the nice thing about NetSparker is that it is very easy to configure. But if you want to go into the nitty gritty detail,
Hmm.
as we say it, this tool will give you that opportunity. Because with the scan policy, for example, you can go into the little details how the scanner will interact with particular websites, especially with single page applications, how to handle forms, the information used, the speed at which the scan is being conducted, the vulnerability checks. So all of this is possible. Also with the report policy, for example, it is also possible to set your own severity levels for every vulnerability.
Hmm.
So you can
And
change
also you can
vulnerability from low to medium.
what I do sometimes is, but maybe before I go in and I really dig into the scan, which I love having all those details there. When I set up a scan, I can set, like, if I know this is WordPress running on Nginx with a MySQL backend, you can define that for each of your sites. Typically, what most of the time you may know what those major technologies are. I can define that. I get a much more a quicker scan and even more accurate when I do that.
Yes, definitely, and even from the report, because sometimes we do encounter situations where users are not really sure what kind of technologies are being used. So even as part of that scan result, we are showing you the technologies being
Mm-hmm.
used. And then we also give that opportunity to basically set those settings as part of the configuration so that the scanner can focus even more
Yeah.
during the scan. So
Yeah, and I
it's a tool
correct
which
myself. I shouldn't have said more accurate. It's more quick, performant because it doesn't have to
yes,
guess
yes,
which web server or which database I have. I'm telling it like, no, I'm telling you that it's an
yeah,
Apache web server. That way, it doesn't have to go figure out what it is first, and then the scans happen a lot more quickly.
yes. The product gives you the ability to basically set those settings and to, um, um, as you said, optimize the scan so that it
Mm.
can be faster and the right set of vulnerability checks can be performed over there. And I mean, as a tool, then the user will also be able to schedule scans, triggers scans through the API, so you can have that continuous scans environment where you can by simple notifications. Again, this is a powerful feature that you can set based on events. Scan completed. You can select the recipients, also choose to attach reports to that particular notification. So you can make sure that all of your web assets are safe throughout this the whole website portfolio, basically.
Fantastic, Mark. We have about a minute left, so closing kind of thoughts and calls to action. I know there's a page where people can get more information as well.
Yeah, so basically, hopefully through this few minutes, I was able to share with you the advantages one is able to get through this platform and how it will make life easier. And again, if you would like to download our securing thousands of websites white paper, just select the handouts button below to download it direct to your computer or place it in your virtual briefcase which you can access via your profile. Right now, we'll be dropping you into the conference center where you can access more of our resources.
That was awesome. Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for your time.